welcome to part 2 of our episode, which is now we've like changed our Japanese brains into into English brains. Yeah, but maybe people don't know, but you actually speak perfect English.
I don't. I'm forgetting a lot of it.
No, that was silly. So we spoke a lot in the Japanese episode about your personal approach to intrapreneurship. So one thing that I felt so interesting about your particular profile and the things that you've brought to life really has been that you've been able to do it in an interesting context that you've been able to do it inside an organization. There's this idea that, if you want to do something new, you have to burn the bridges and leave, and that's not always the case. And in the age of AI, one of the things that I really want people to learn or know or to share is some stories about how we have accomplished transformation so far. Because we can't, of course, AI is its own thing, no question. But I mean, success leaves clues, right? I mean, we can't just say, oh, we have never done an AI transformation before, so we have to start from zero. And from some of the people that I've been speaking to that are really quite excellent when it comes to communicating about AI, they don't talk about some random thing in the future. They actually go back to the past and they say, remember computers, remember electricity. And so one of the reasons that I think your voice is so important in this next period is how to bring digital innovation to the world. It may not be AI, for example, as such, but we've got a lot of lessons. You've done it many times. So I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts.
So I think it's the most difficult thing in the beginning is to start the ball rolling. Once the ball start rolling, it will eventually, speed up and doesn't really stop quite easily. So how can we start the ball rolling on the table is the very important thing.
And I'm sure that there are many ways, but in your experience, how has there been a pattern in how that initial kind of spark started? Did it come from you personally? Was it from something different? What has been the ways that started for you?
So a few times, or the most cases, there was a few, the new initiatives came inside from me, but the more came from my manager or department manager. In that case, how it started was, let's say my manager asked me if we can do this or we can make this kind of things. And what I said was, I think so. So I'm not so sure, but perhaps. Then I said, shall I take a look into it? See how can we do? And in that moment, I created the next kind of touch point to bring something in, which means we started the ball rolling a little bit, right? If you started that kind of cadence, then the ball will start rolling, and if that's a snowball, and snowball get bigger. So you don't have to aim a big thing in the early phase, but try something to roll. Even the small steps. If it's small step, then the cadence should be kind of more frequent. If you're looking for bigger, then probably you need a little bit longer period. But the important thing is move things forward. It really depends how to do in each circumstances. But usually, those people who interact will be looking for someone to make things progress. So if you say, maybe I can do, then probably people will try to support you.
Interesting. So maybe let's look at, so for example, the Business Karaoke podcast person is usually like you, Japanese with a global background, or like me, global with a Japanese background type thing. And so maybe we can look at maybe the different ways to approach things. So let's say that you're in an organization and that initial kind of spark has come, whether it's from you or, as you just mentioned, from a manager or so. What are some logistical things? And one of the reasons why I'm asking kind of like logistics is because I often find when we tell stories, you get inspiration. You think, oh, they were able to do it. But I also really love to hear how someone did it. So, for example, did you go out for lunch? Did you hold a benkyōkai? Did you hold like a big kind of meeting? These kind of little things. So, what are some, from your experience, some, let's say, easy steps to get the ball rolling?
You can get the hints from any time. It could be some regular meeting or something, or it could be casual lunch or whatever. But if you find something that sparks your mind, and you can reach out to the person to talk about that. Is perhaps one step. Really, the innovation doesn't really start from the meeting to think about what's the innovation should be, but actually coming from the pain points or desire that comes from, could be anywhere around. And the important thing is who's going to get the benefit from that, and the more senior the person will be, they'll be better to, easier to get the resources. So if that benefit coming from the innovation isn't that shiny, attractive for the business owner, then probably you need to do some, the guerrilla war. But usually the innovation should be made to help the business or company, whatever. So it should be reasonably appealing to the manager of the business. So if you can share that to, could be department manager or group manager, quicker, I think will be better to see if this vision or idea sounds attractive or not. Even there's no plan, there's no product, it's fine. But to kind of to check if this vision is appealing and beneficial for both, then probably we can form that.
Interesting. So I have a theory around kind of business in Japan, and I'd like your thoughts on it. It's a pure theory. There's two kind of no's. One no is N-O, and the other no is K-N-O-W. I don't know enough. And so what I think is super interesting, what you just mentioned now, is like, let's say that I have an idea, and I believe in one thing that I like is that you often refer to like who's happy, ureshi, like who's gonna be happy, which I think is really, we often say user-centered or human-centered, or what's the pain point, but another way to say what's the pain point is who's gonna be happy. I really like that approach as well. And so even if, say, for example, your innovation is directly connected to the end user, if you haven't made that user happiness connected to the business, I think you're missing a key point of the conversation. And I think you have to take the responsibility as the person holding the torch for the initiative to draw that line really clearly for management to say, don't just think that they can draw the line themselves in their head. Show them, if we do this, if we improve this app, if we create more touch points here, whatever, it will translate to this thing, whatever. Because I often find that no, when they say no to an innovation, it's often, I don't know enough, not necessarily N-O as in I'm not interested. What's your thoughts there on like balancing maybe the communication to the actual, let's say, innovation sponsor, champion, as well as like maybe the end innovation or that is actually, or the is for the end user. How do you balance or approach that?
So when I talk to like the line manager or some senior manager to start with the new project or initiative, I presented this is kind of direction or vision we're trying to get there, and we're not so sure if we can really get there, but if we can get there, it should be like this. Like for example, let's say there's some key metrics, KPIs. It should be like 1,000 people coming, 100 people signing up, 10 people actually started using, etc. So, but I don't know if it's going to exactly going to be like that. It wouldn't, but we have the kind of a hypothetical scenario. If it's really working, it should be looking like this. Let us try from this part to see if it's reasonable or not. Then if true, then Next step, we'll try here, 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 and to make sure we get there instead of let's go out and see what we can find. Let's see if there's a new continent over there. No, we should be having a good winning hypothesis and the blueprint of how it should be working if the hypotheses are right. If those are convincing enough, then probably we'll get the support.
That's interesting. As in kind of looking at it as like as a level up approach, like a video game, like you're leveling up in a way. So you've been part of teams and led projects for digital products and solutions that basically anyone in Japan probably knows or uses, but you didn't. That's not how the product started, or that's not how the program started. What, if any, have you seen in the development or like the life cycle of building these, digital products or services? Have you seen any similarities or any lessons learned, for example, as in like, in order to, see something that that millions of people are using every day, that can't be phase one, right? That has to be kind of early on. And as you scale that kind of product, not only in growth, but also you'll need to scale it also, financially as well, but also in stakeholder management, things like that. So I'd love your thoughts on, does it follow any particular pattern? Is it completely different from case to case or from product to product?
In my experience, it's very difficult to talk about the animals people don't know about it, but maybe you can explain the animal is kind or red or like, charming, etc. So actually, it can translate into the experiences that people are familiar with. So even the new app like service functionalities are unclear yet, but the value provided from that service can be explained. For example, let's say one person purchase a cup of coffee 5 times a month. With something new, it becomes like 20 purchases. This is something we're going to create. I'm not sure how it's going to make it or what kind of services. Well, I have some hypotheses in back, but important for the audience is not about what this is at this point, but what's going to bring this to our business. Multiplying this transaction by like 3 or 4 is a nice story, right? It's a positive thing. So first, you got some minimum level engagement. Okay, this should be something positive for us. Then some people would ask, okay, how are you going to do it? Well, I think in order to buy like 4 times more than, it should be some strong incentive or value, additional value provided from the service. What we can give, what we can offer. We can offer this or that. And see which one will appeal better. How can we provide those? So, in short, I think when I create something, I will always have some objective functions, or let's say 目的関数 objective なんだろう objective っていうのかな、なんか目標 like the aimed scenario. And think how we can make it. You can offer free drink, or you can offer some extra gift, etc. And how could be wrong, but if I make some example of this or that, and some people say, okay, I think this incentive will be better, or this approach will be better, then we'll like brush up with the better how. But important thing is why we're doing it. Why is to help our business, help our consumers. What probably with the digital, but probably not only with the digital. We don't limit that. It could be OM or online merged offline type of experiences. But I think skipping the why will be very difficult to proceed.
I think that's super interesting because it's also our recommended approach for AI as well, right? So it's if you focus on too much on what AI can do, you get lost because honestly, it can do almost anything. It's where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? So I think this is very interesting that what was true from, let's call it our DX era, will be just as true, if not more true, in our kind of AI world. I would also be very interested to hear if you're thinking, for example, let's take like maybe a specific scenario that we didn't speak about in our Japanese episode is imagine that you're different for whatever reason. Maybe you're a foreigner, maybe you think different, you're just maybe a different kind of person in your organization. What kind of role do you think that can play? Do you think that if you manage it well, that you can, maybe you can go places that people haven't gone? Do you kind of recommend to kind of pull it back a bit? Because you've been able to really bring some, enterprise level innovation to the world. And I'd be really interested to hear what role can you as a person play, and also maybe your passions, your experience, maybe just even your life view. I'd be really interested to hear like how would that kind of all work, if that makes sense.
I recall one story when I was in Rakuten. There was my manager told me that you're not kind of normal. I thought I was normal.
So, you're not normal.
I thought I was kind of a banal person. It could be, it's not eccentric, at least. I have a lot of common senses. But she thought, you're not. Actually, in like the sort of genius. I mean, not mathematically, but it's the way of thinking, perhaps. I didn't have it that. But she told me, because you're a bit different, you should do what only you can do. And not only that, but also at the same time, you need to find what pieces are missing in the environment, a mix of something that's missing from this environment and what only I can do. If that makes a good match, will create the very important role for that. Because I'm here, if I'm not adding value, there's not much meaning for me, nor the organization for me to do what I'm doing. So I think it's, for me, because I'm not same as everyone, I still always find some like air spot, what's missing, and missing something important, and thinking what I can do. And I kind of change the role, what I do depends on to make the organization or business better.
That's great. Because we often hear, especially if let's say you're maybe a foreigner in an organization, you think, what's the balance between trying to adhere to Japanese kind of processes or so versus how can I bring value, or how am I different? But I think the question is not how am I different. The question is, how can I bring value? What's the thing that I can do that nobody else can do? Moving forward in our AI era, I've really come to understand that in order for us to really take ownership of these changes, this transformation that we're going through, we have to anchor ourselves, right? And anchor means anchor it, connect where you are today to something you have experienced in the past. And I remember in 2020, there was a document written called the 2025 Digital Cliff by MITI, right? If we don't achieve, as Japan, these things by 2025, there will be basically a gap that we will never come back from. We haven't achieved many of those things in that report. However, this report was written without the context of AI, right? So I would love your personal experience, because in Business Karaoke, we never give advice. It's only ever personal thoughts and stories. What did we do well during digital? transformation, so DX, what we in Japan call DX, no one else calls it DX, but we call it DX. What did we do well, and where did we miss an opportunity that we shouldn't miss again?
I think the DX, most of business or companies made with at least we caught up with the evolution of smartphone. Most of the services will be available through smartphone, some with apps, some with web. And digital became the first on top of like sheet of papers. So, and those people probably do not ignore the existence of digital and services experiences through digital, which is good. The things we missed was it stopped at the certain level. At least it exceeded the minimum level. But the world and AIs are evolving. But it's still, there's so many opportunities Japan can go better. At least we cannot really think we are the leading the world. We're following the world by far. In terms of the comments you made earlier, how can let's say foreign or different person can bring, because as it's different, different things. My favorite, the framework is the Johari's window. Johari's window. I'm knowing this, I'm not knowing this. So I used to work in the UK as a minority, surrounded by not only British but many people, different countries. But but certainly I was one of the only few Japanese right there. So I brought very fresh air to those people, and here it could be the other way around. So you don't have to be, think I have to do something, I have to do differently, but at least you can share that the people are not aware of and inspires the thinking. Who's going to do it? How's going to do it? Maybe you can sometimes, unique person can do, some local people can do. We don't really have to, commit to that in the beginning, but at least you can bring the fresh air. So in the DX phase, many people thought, okay, we came to the okay level, but since AI is so evolving so fast, that someone got to tell, okay, we cannot stop here. You should look around. People are running so fast, we're just walking or even stopping. So I think that's kind of the thing we're missing in the DX era and now as well. So
I've heard a comment before that Japan may not be first in place, so they may not be the first arrival, but don't discount Japan having the first in terms of impact. Because as you mentioned, like, we may be kind of like taking time, but if kind of we take the right things, and I mean there's some significant what I believe, what we haven't seen in many other places, which is that the Japanese government is, I would say, moving more. I guess maybe they understand, like, if the government doesn't set something and say something, maybe businesses don't move, whereas maybe in the States, the businesses are like, let's just get around government like regulation and see kind of what we can do. But the Japanese government is really trying to, push AI, even though there's like significant literacy holes as well, but they're working on it. There's like lots going on. So I think it's interesting that, yes, Japan may not be first in terms of arriving first, but maybe in terms of impact, because of when, in Japan, when you all line up behind an idea, everyone lines up. Unlike in maybe the UK or Australia, we're 2 weeks into a project, people are like, who's doing this project? I don't know. Like, it's kind of everyone's interest kind of falls by the wayside. What's your thoughts there on when in Japan the conditions are correct and everyone buys into the idea? Maybe there's a story or maybe there's a particular project that comes into mind, that impact can be exponential.
I think Japanese people are great in doing things right. but there are very few people can show what's the right things to do. There are always a lot of politics, regulations, constraints, etc. So people want to do right things, but very realistic and pragmatic people avoid those, rough roads, etc. So kind of easier get to go the path that allows people to do things right, or in a right manner. But sometimes doing the right things, going through a bush or hazard, with needs some power, and going through differently. Not many people can show the path and lead the people to going through that path. But once there's a path is identified and some people um, follow or jointly go there, it could be very very strong power. I think in the past Japan made that path with like I don't know, with the automobiles or with the technology. It created a lot of impact. So I think since there are so many stakeholders caring about how did it work, people always care about how we did it. But what we do, what's the right thing, and how to get there fast is something kind of missing or weakened these days. So this AI era could be some paradigm shift that many people can show much easily. This is the right things to do, and we can do it. Why don't we go?
Maybe to finish up our English episode, what gives you the personal strength to keep going as an entrepreneur, right? So the way I say that is because entrepreneurs, I always say, are anyone that's VC backed or entrepreneur, I think is the hardest job in the world, because you have so many customers. If you're entrepreneur, you have your manager, you have your end customers, you have the finance, like there's so many people you have to make happy. And if you're VC backed, you have two customers. You have your end customer and you have the VC that wants to make a return on their money, right? Which basically in an entrepreneurship is your boss or whoever is championing the project. So, and on top of that, you have to do, if you're an entrepreneur, you have your regular work on top of this new thing, whatever that you're doing, right? Because it's very rare that they go, okay, your job is to do this completely new thing. Sometimes it's like you have to do all of these things, and in line to this, you all have to do these other things. And then on top of that, we all have to somehow eat, sleep, and have some kind of family, social life, right? What gives you the strength to keep going? Is it the fact that you've seen your innovations live in the world and it gives you joy? Is it sports? What gives you the strength to keep going as an entrepreneur?
The three things. The first one is that I'm very happy when people appreciated the work, and people get appreciated because it helped the business or helped people anyway. It's not just seeing people are using, but it's more about something I contributed to someone's life or business, and the sense of knowing that things, what I kind of I produced, helped people is very satisfying. Secondly, that's personally, it's every new challenge is new experiences. Sometimes very, challenging but rewarding, and it will eventually help myself one way or another. So I take that as a learning curve. And thirdly, even it doesn't really, make a big success in the company, but it can ultimately we can change the company or environment or countries, and it's going to be a good storytelling to people, and I can get the new inspiration or opportunities because of having those experiences. So it could be that's a dot connecting to next dot. So that's kind of the thinking. So I don't really healthcare, what's the type of, let's say, なんていうかな. It's going to be really, of course, I try to make the best, but if it doesn't make success, just try to do different things, new things. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think in this new field, I really encourage people to open or think critically about AI, but also go back and study. Go back and study. What did we do well during digital? What did we do well during the industrial transformations? And I think you've brought some really important innovations to the world, and you've led transformation internally. And I think this is going to be a key in order to see a real transformation in Japan. Everyone cannot go out and have their own business. Not even everybody wants to do that. And there's so much also greatness being involved in a large organization, the kinds of opportunities that can bring you, or the resources that you have available. Of course, you pay for them in other ways, sometimes, but it's still such a great thing. And I really hope that we start also to see this new story of entrepreneurship and transformation within Japanese organizations as well. So I'm very excited to hear that. And so maybe as a final word, what are you personally interested in maybe the next 18 months or so? What's for you personally interesting?
So I've been doing the sort of e-commerce platform for a while, one form or the other form. But in the longer term, I'll probably want to do something more related to people's life, career, or their lifestyle, to bring something more, or make the life happier, more meaningful. I don't know how it's going to be, because I've been changing the job many times, so I know how hard to change, style of the work. But at the same time, you get a lot of new learnings. But not many people change that often. But I think there are so many learning opportunities in life, and the learning will make people's life more refreshing, inspiring. So I was wondering, what can I do to make people's life even happier? So that's something I want to do in the longer term. Yeah.
And I think you just shared your successful process, which is don't worry about the what, start with the why, right? And the how. Junichi, thank you so much for coming and sharing just a few of your myriad of insights. Let's continue the conversation. We have to already schedule our next conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。Fish. ありがとうございました。ありがとうございました。全然 you were like, I was not sure, but you perfect.